Well, hi everyone. I'm just about to start recording my podcast again. Good to have you join me and hope you enjoy today's episode. Well, welcome back everyone. Thanks for joining me again, and really good to have the comments from last week's podcast. That was quite an interesting one and provoked a lot of conversation. We were talking, for those who haven't listened to last week's podcast, about setting the standard for 2022. And what I started to notice when I was getting back to chatting with my clients, my coaching clients, and having conversations with them about this year and setting goals for this year, was there was a bit of a lull in the conversation, and I have been noticing that people are feeling very flat in the area of setting goals and having things to aim for within their finances and also within their personal life. And I found that very sad in a way, and I began to probe a little bit deeper. And some of the reactions that came back from the podcast last week and also in with my coaching clients was, what is the point of setting goals when we live in such a changing world? And, I really wanted to give some direction in this week's podcast with regard to that, because I feel like there are lots of reasons why we should do. I think it's really important that we have a stable foundation on which to live our lives. And I think it's really important that we have values that we live by and standards that we live by. In finances, we always have the basis of always spend less than you earn, those kind of things. We don't race off into rash decisions. We make sure we always come from a stable foundation, if you like. And I was reminded, I actually met with some friends this morning over coffee, and I was reminded of a principle that I had developed quite a few years ago. It came from an old proverb that I had read, and I'm going to read that to you today. But it came about probably when I was 2 or 3 years into my business and I was waiting for things to get started. I was a little bit impatient. Things were not moving as fast as I wanted them to do. And I wondered, and I was sort of in that process of, well, what do we do while we're waiting? And this is when I developed what I like to call the Hall Principle. And some of you out there who have been following me for years will realize that I actually long time ago wrote a blog about this. But I thought I would actually readdress it this week in a podcast because I think it's very timely. We live in a world that is ever changing. We never know from one moment to the next what life is going to look like. So how can we find some sort of balance and stability in that, especially in the area of finances, because finance is one of those areas that's quite volatile at the moment when you work in an industry that is affected by lockdowns and quarantine and things like that. So I thought it was very timely, and thank you to those friends that I met with this morning to remind me of it, because it's really what I'm going to base this on. So if I can read to you, first of all, what this actual proverb said, and sorry, there's a bit of clicking going on in the background because I'm reading my notes off my computer screen, but it says there in Proverbs, 4 things on earth are small, yet they are extremely wise. Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food in summer. Rock badgers or hyraxes are creatures of little power, yet they make their home in the cracks. Locusts have no king, yet they advance together in ranks. And a lizard can be caught with the hand, yet it's found in a king's palace. I read that quite a long time ago, and I learned a great lesson from that, which I've called the Hall Principle, because it's taken from the first letter of every animal: hyraxes or rock badgers, ants, lizards, and locusts. So I just want to read to you my principle, if you like, and then we'll go from there. So the hyrax that learns, they aren't powerful, but they make their home among the rocks. I learned from that we need to keep doing what we're doing and learn to live victoriously in our present circumstances. I think this is a very timely message because we are living in very volatile circumstances. We are in the midst of change all the time, and it's been interesting to see how we have actually learned to cope with change a lot better than we ever have. But this to me speaks of how can I live with my values? How can I live with a good foundation? How can I live with what I believe is the right way during these changing times? This is a time to really learn that, and it's the same with your finances. How can I handle my finances in such a way that will cause me to be successful in these changing times? That is a really good principle. The second one in the whole principle, it derives from this little creature called an ant. We've all seen them scurrying around on the ground. They're very busy and they seem to be carrying a lot of stuff they're collecting and they're taking it. And what it said in the proverb was, ants, they aren't strong, but they store up food all summer. And that to me spoke about don't waste. When the good times come, store for your future. Learn lessons now that develop good principles that will stand you in good stead for the winter times. I think that ant is a great little creature, and I don't know if you've ever sat looking and pondering, but those ants teach us a lot. When things are going good, we should be collecting wisdom, we should be collecting finances, we should be storing stuff that we could use in the future, but not so much so that we store and we're not generous. I'm a big believer in being generous, but being ready to help other people even when things are not good. So making sure that now, while you can, if we talk about in the area of finances, while you have money coming into your house, setting aside money in an emergency fund or savings for when maybe there might be lean times. And we live in a time now when finances can be volatile. We never know from one moment to the next if we're going to have work, that type of thing, or indeed if things are going to be more expensive. So storing up when you can for the future, but not storing up so tightly that you can't be generous. And I think the little ant teaches us that very, very well. The next one is Locus. They have no leader, but they march together in formation. And I think this is a really lovely principle because in a household, some people do live by themselves and that's absolutely fine. You've really got just you to be able to agree with. That's not a bad thing. That would be a very easy thing. But when you live in a household of a husband or a wife or a husband-wife family or, mums, dads, whatever, it's a really good idea to have good communication so that you can work together in unity. And these locusts teach us that, they do things without a leader, but they march together in formation. And you can see the devastation that a locust can cause because they just work together. So it really just shows that if we work together as a household, as a couple, then we can actually move forward quite well. And this speaks to me loud and clearly in the area of finances because it talks about being in agreement, listening to what is valuable to each other. We often meet people in my work at my life who there's two different types of people, a spender and a saver. Those two people have got to learn to work together so one or each of them don't go crazy because the other one is spending too much or the other one is saving too much. It's really important that you learn to work together so that you can move forward. That's a good principle in life and in finances. And the last one is the lizard. So the lizard, even though they're easily caught, they can be found in king's palaces. I love that one because a lizard is not a normal thing to be found in a king's palace. And I think what this really speaks about is to be ready for every opportunity. In these changing times, and as a business owner, and I do meet with other business owners, it's been really interesting how we have had to pivot, change the way we do things very quickly in order to be able to keep our businesses alive during this time. But also on a personal level, we have had to learn how to change when we could no longer do what we used to do. And so again, we've all learned to live with change Well, I think this little lizard teaches us to be ready for every opportunity. And we have had some great opportunities come our way because we've taken the extra time that we've been given to be at home to maybe do some extra study or do some extra reading, really increase our knowledge, really look at the way we do things, to change the way we do things. And I just think that that's a really good part of this principle. So the whole principle is a principle that you adopt when you are waiting. You're not quite sure what's coming up. You're not quite sure what the future holds, but these are really good principles to be able to live by. H, keep doing what you are doing right now and learn to live victoriously in your present circumstances. A, this is from the little ant. Do not waste when the good times come, but store for the future, learn good lessons, develop good principles that will stand you in good stead for the winter. And L, unity, so that's the locus. Unity, learn to stand together, communicate well with one another, move forward together. Don't be at odds with the people around you. That's not helpful at all. And L for lizard, be ready for every opportunity. Always be prepared. So if you've got extra time on your hand, why not take some extra time to be studying and learning and moving forward in that way so that you're ready for every opportunity. So I hope today this podcast has helped you in really looking at, well, yes, we are in changing times. How do I set goals in these times? Sometimes it is just working on myself, just working in my area. I'm really just going to tread water for a little while, but still don't use those wonderful visions and dreams for the future, and be ready, get ready now for future opportunities, store now, or get things in order now, learn to work together, and then you'll be ready when times have changed again. So I hope that's helped you. I'd really love to hear your comments. And remember, you can write to me, podcast@coachchris.com.au, and I'd love to hear from you. So until next week, have a wonderful week. Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that. Quite a profound, maybe thought-provoking lesson, or a bit philosophical, but it was certainly something that helped me when I needed it early on in my business. And so I'd love to hear your comments, love to hear what you have to say, and I'll talk to you again next week.